All right, we finally got through all the fun and exciting textbook and textbook quizzes and delightful keywords, and now we get to watch a movie. Yay! All right, so for this week, we are going to be watching a Frontline documentary entitled A Class Divided. I'm actually super excited about this. You guys usually really enjoy this particular video, so I'm always stoked to see what you guys have to say about it. So, in 1968, after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., Jane Elliott decided to do an activity with her third graders in her Iowa classroom. Now, her third graders were a class of all small white children. Obviously, you're in the middle of Iowa. There's not a lot of people of color out there at this point. We're in the 80s. And she was trying to figure out how can she make these children who have very little interaction with people of color, really only see this stuff on the news. How is she going to help them understand what it's like to live as a black person in 1968 America? Well, she comes up with an idea, and it's known as the blue-eyed experiment. So there are visible differences between white folks, and one of those is eye color. So she divided her third grade class into two groups, brown eyes and blue eyes. Next day, those two groups switched. So we'll be watching this 1986 Frontline documentary called A Class Divided. Basically, what's going on here is the kids are coming back. So they were back there in the 60s, right? They're now grown-ups. They're adults. They have kids of their own. They're coming back to visit Jane Elliott and basically talk about whether or not this worked, how this affected them as adults, if they were traumatized by it. This was incredibly controversial. Now, in the 90s, this became a little popular. There were some places that were doing it, including my very suburban school district. I actually did this activity when I was in third grade. I thought it was amazing. With me and my very lily white suburban high school, this was a way for us to understand something, maybe slightly different. So as you're watching A Class Divided, I want you to keep a couple of things in mind. One, I want you to think about our keywords from this week because they're all over this documentary. You will see them, I promise. So keep an eye out for our keywords this week. I also want you to keep in mind what you think this would do to a 9-year-old. Would you have wanted to do this when you were 9? Would you want your kids to do it? Why? Why not? As always, we have a lot of delightful discussion questions in our discussion board. What I would recommend is that you pull up the YouTube video in one tab on your computer and you have our discussion questions in another tab in your computer so that you can kind of keep track. Some people like to put an embedded video into a document on Blackboard, but it makes it like this big, and I do not like that. So we'll go ahead and do this for right now unless you guys request otherwise. So go ahead and give this video a watch. I think it's only about 50 minutes, a little under. And then pop into the discussion post and let me know what you thought. After this, we just have one little bitty activity for the rest of this week. It's just a little immigration activity, and I'll be back in a video to tell you about that one. All right, see you guys soon.